Let me tell you something. When people say pictures say 1,000 words, they're talking about these pictures right here. Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So following his first round knockout in Macau, China against Saad Kokiat Jim a couple months back, the pound for pound number 3 best fighter in the world, Guillermo Rigondeaux, follows that up with another knockout, a TKO knockout over Goliath Hisashi Amagasa. In what has been quoted by BoxingScene.com and many other boxing websites as one of the most entertaining, exciting, thrilling fights by Guillermo Rigondeaux and Amagasa, Guillermo Rigondeaux gets knocked down in the 7th round by a vicious right hand from the Goliath Amagasa. Guillermo Rigondeaux is forced to dig deep and deal with adversity and find a way to take down this Goliath of a man. And Guillermo Rigondeaux would do just that. Now Rigondeaux, he was pretty much controlling the entire fight from round 1 to the 11th round when the fight came to a halt. But even though Rigondeaux was controlling the fight, the Japanese, he was having his moments and making the fight very entertaining and competitive while he was losing the majority of the rounds. Rigondeaux, as always, man, extremely impressive in this fight. He was catching Amagasa with beautiful, quick left hands, uppercuts, left hands to the body, vicious combinations with speed and power. Just like that mitt work that I showed you guys, the video that I uploaded of Rigondeaux working out, that's exactly how he looked in this fight. Vicious combinations. Now, like I said, he was doing all of this before he got knocked down, Rigondeaux was. And after he got knocked down, he regained control of the fight and he continued where he left off. But then he really started to press the issue, in the later rounds. Because in the 10th round, he knocked Amagasa down with his favorite punch, of course, a straight left. Now, in the 9th round, he actually broke Amagasa's jaw. And following the 9th round and the 10th round, he broke Amagasa's orbital bone. Now, Rigondeaux followed that up with a vicious attack in the 11th round, going for the kill. And after Amagasa made it back to his corner after the 11th round, that's when him and his team decided to throw in the towel. And Rigondeaux wins this fight by a very impressive 11th round TKO. Now, some of the things that really caught my eye in this fight was not so much of Guillermo Rigondeaux getting knocked down, but how Amagasa reacted once he knocked Guillermo Rigondeaux down. Because the way he was dancing and celebrating after he knocked down Guillermo Rigondeaux, it looked like he had just knocked down Jesus mixed with Michael Jordan. Like, you can tell what Amagasa and probably the entire country of Japan thought about Guillermo Rigondeaux. They really did look at him like he was JJ, Jesus Jordan. And you know what the scary thing is? He just might be that. Listen, let me try to break down exactly what Guillermo did this week in the sport of boxing. Guillermo Rigondeaux, not only did he fight a Goliath in the ring, but he fought a Goliath in a ring that was already naturally bigger than him. You guys probably didn't know this, but Amagasa is an actual featherweight. He just came down in this fight for this opportunity to fight against pound for pound number 3, the best fighter in the world. So really, Amagasa was a featherweight, but he just came down in weight knowing that he would blow back up after the weigh-in to his natural weight. And according to the reports, his natural weight turned out to be around 145 pounds because that's what he rehydrated to. So Guillermo Rigondeaux was in there damn near fighting a welterweight or a junior welterweight at a catch weight, right? Keep in mind, guys, Guillermo Rigondeaux, he has one of the highest knockout ratios in his division. He has a higher knockout ratio than Leo Santa Cruz, Nonito Donaire. You know what's interesting about Rigo's knockout record is, like I said, he has 10 knockouts out of 15 fights. Now, the majority of fighters that Guillermo Rigondeaux didn't knock out, they actually outweighed Guillermo at least by 15 to 20 plus pounds. Okay, so it makes sense that he didn't knock out fighters like Nonito Donaire or Roberto American. I mean, he almost knocked both of them out, but there was a huge size disadvantage for Guillermo Rigondeaux. So for Rigondeaux to be able to knock out a guy who outweighs him by 20 plus pounds like he just did against Amagasa, right? Damn near breaking all the bones in his face, breaking his cheekbone, his jaw. You know, coincidentally, Rigondeaux, he injured Nonito Donaire's orbital bone as well. In fact, the 11th round of the Amagasa fight, it looked a lot like the 12th round of the Rigondeaux versus Donaire fight, where Rigondeaux was basically putting on the pressure. He was inflicting a lot of damage on these fighters, and it looked like for just a quick second, these fighters were going to give up. But all of a sudden, they sucked it up, and they both got through the round. Now, the way the fight ended was very reminiscent of the Thriller in Manila, when Muhammad Ali beat Joe Frazier in their third fight in the Philippines. I say that because just like Joe Frazier, after taking tremendous punishment and returning to his corner all super lumped up and it's only one round left, that's when the team and the fighter decide to bring the fight to a halt. Okay? Now, the only difference is with the Amagasa fight, by me just looking at his body language, it seemed like he realized his jaw was too damaged. He kept touching his jaw. He kept, looking at his team and basically pointing at his jaw, like saying, basically, I took it as, he like, man, I can't fight like this. This is too much of a disadvantage. My jaw is broken. It's sticking way out my damn face, right? So that's pretty much what he was saying. The difference with Joe Frazier, at least from that aspect, Joe Frazier, he wanted to continue fighting. He desperately wanted to continue fighting. But like I said, just like Amagasa, Joe Frazier was completely lumped up. He was completely busted up. And the referee stopped it. Once again, this is what makes this so reminiscent, because soon as the referee calls a halt to the fight, you see Rigondeaux immediately walk all the way over to Amagasa's corner to give him a hug. And basically, as far as I'm concerned, the body language was like, man, you gave me a real tough fight. Good fight, man, right? The way Muhammad Ali reacted to the referee calling the fight was very similar to the way Guillermo Rigondeaux reacted or responded. That's the point that I'm making. Now, something else I noticed when I was watching this fight that made me just shake my head and say, that's a goddamn shame, was when I was listening to the commentary, which was Japanese commentary, right? Now, I don't understand a single word that they're saying. But why is it, even though I don't understand the words that they're saying, why does it sound like they're doing a much better job than commentators, or I should say blow-by-blow announcers like Jim Lampley does when he calls a Guillermo fight, or when he calls other fights where a fighter that is on the coincidental list is involved in the match? I mean, did you guys notice this? Some things that are said doesn't need translation, okay? What I noticed when I was listening to this broadcast is every single time Guillermo threw one of them hard-ass left punches to the head or the body, or he just threw some vicious-ass combination, it sounded like the commentators were jumping out of their seats with enthusiasm, right? That is what a blow-by-blow announcer is supposed to do. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, hey, Dante, I've heard Jim Lampley jumping out of his seat, screaming and hollering as he was calling a fight, all into it. And you're right, he has done that. But the difference from Jim Lampley and these Japanese commentators is Jim Lampley, he only does it for the fighters that he likes. Now, these commentators, on the other hand, they treated Guillermo Rigondeaux exactly like they treated their own countrymen, which is what a blow-by-blow announcer is supposed to do. It's a damn shame when I think about the fact I'm over here in my own country and I have to give more credit to commentators in another country than I would give my own countrymen. You know, and it gets even worse because you even have other countries that treat American fighters better when they're calling the fight than Jim Lampley does. I mean, it's sad, man. It's really sad because, like I said, I've listened to so many different commentators, and at least 98% of them, or maybe I should say 99% of them, especially when it comes to blow-by-blow announcers. You guys have to understand something. A blow-by-blow announcer's job is different than a color analyst. A blow-by-blow announcer's job is to call all of the punches that are landed or thrown, you know? So you can't be a blow-by-blow announcer and you're only reporting what your favorite fighter is throwing and landing, but the guy you can't stand, you don't even mention what he's throwing, or you downplay it, right? I mean, you can't, it doesn't work that way. And Jim Lampley is the only one that does this. And quite frankly, I don't know how he gets away with it. I don't know how they allow him to do this because he's been doing it for so long now, right? Now, I was just talking about how the Japanese commentators, every single time Amagasa or Guillermo Rigondeaux threw a vicious punch and it landed or it grazed, whatever the case would be, these guys, they got all into it. They were enthused. They were jumping out of their seats. And when you feel that energy from them, it rubs off. And that is the job of a blow-by-blow announcer, right? Get you more into it. Jim Lampley will do the complete opposite if it's a fighter that he does not like. Let me give you a perfect example. Since we talk about Guillermo Rigondeaux, I could take you back to the Rigondeaux versus Tian Kennedy fight. Now, keep in mind, Guillermo Rigondeaux, he beat the shit out of Tian Kennedy, okay? And Tian Kennedy wasn't a bum. This guy was a prospect. He had never been knocked out before. He was a promising fighter coming up the rankings, all right? He was an aggressive American fighter, and Guillermo Rigondeaux did whatever he wanted to do with this guy. In fact, I believe he knocked him down about 4 or 5 times, and then he stopped him in the 5th or the 7th round. All right? Now, what's so crazy about this, what I just described, if that shit was in Japan, you would have heard them losing their damn voice, going crazy with all the excitement, knockdowns, beautiful combinations, etc., right? But you know what we got from Jim Lampley? Guillermo Rigondeaux knocks down Tian Kennedy a couple times, and Jim Lampley had the nerve. And I bullshit you not. You go back and watch the commentary and listen to it. Like I said before, there was no screaming and jumping up and getting all into it like a blow-by-blow announcer does. Instead, Jim Lampley, he calmly said, well, you know, even though he's knocking this guy down, he's not really hurting him. These are more like flash knockdowns because he's not even really hurting him, right? Guillermo Rigondeaux is knocking this guy down with one single punch. Not an accumulation. He's not breaking him down to where Tian Kennedy is tired and he's finally crumbling to the ground. No, he's knocking him down over and over with one single punch, right? One single left hand. But yet, Jim Lampley is trying to convince his viewers that even though he's knocking down this guy, Tian Kennedy, this still doesn't mean he has any power. This still doesn't mean he's hurting the guy. These are just flash knockdowns. Even after Guillermo Rigondeaux knocked Tian Kennedy out, Jim Lampley was still insinuating that Guillermo Rigondeaux is not really a big power puncher. And I remember this was around the time when Max Kellerman and Emmanuel Stewart, they actually disagreed with Jim Lampley, saying, no, I believe he does have power, right? See, Jim Lampley, he likes to convince people that fighters on the coincidental list, they're cowards, right? They're not known for power. All they want to do is survive and run and try to box. He doesn't like to admit that fighters on a coincidental list, they have power, because Jim looks at, power as, being the tough guys. Only the tough guys have power. The cowards with the permanent yellow streaks on their back, they don't have power, and they don't want to knock out anyone. They just want to survive. This is the point that Jim Lampley is often trying to make. But you don't hear this type of approach from the other commentators. You really only hear this from Jim Lampley. Only someone like Jim Lampley would say, I'm removing Guillermo Rigondeaux from my pound for pound list because the fans were booing Rigondeaux at his last fight. Can you believe the nerve of this guy to call himself a knowledgeable boxing fan? A man that bases his pound for pound list on who's liked the most, talking about who's getting booed and who doesn't get booed. Are you serious? Jim Lampley having a pound for pound list is like Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith having a pound for pound list, which says it all. That's all I got, y'all. I'm on to the next one.